Hey guys, HANMEDITATIONS here, and I'm so excited to bring you guys a new meditation album.
Entranced to Serenity, streaming now on all platforms. See you there.
All right, so today we're going to talk about a lot of different things. We're going to be talking about channeling, and we're just going to get into it. So Kelly's a Reiki healer. We're actually both channelers, which is really awesome. And if you're watching this, guess what? You're a channeler too. Because the way that channeling works is you channel your personality. So if people are always like, oh, I wish I could channel, you can channel, you do channel all the time. It's essentially just acting, but in a higher mind form of way. So your personality is being channeled through you at all times. So whenever you just feel like you're talking and you're passionate about something and you're going on almost like a rant and you feel your vibration going higher and higher, you're channeling. And that's how I started channeling before I even knew that I was doing it, before I even realized that everybody channels. I would just start talking and I would be excited, talking about spirituality, talking about aliens, talking about just different things of that nature. And once I really got into it, then I was like, wow, my vibration feels high. It's flowing. It's going. I'd debate people. I would get into arguments with people, polite arguments. But so we actually had an exciting experience where Kelly was channeling during Reiki. And this happens a lot of times, a few times, where she does a beginning prayer where she just brings in all positivity, all of our guides, all of, angels, saints, Yeshua, different beings that we're in contact with. And she started channeling light beings because she calls in the beings of light. So I don't know if you want to talk about it, maybe what it felt like.
Yeah,
maybe a little bit about it.
Before we get into that, I want to ask you, Han, maybe we can go back even a little bit more and say, I would like to know, what was your first experience of channeling, like actual beings? When was the first time you heard about it, your first experience with it? And how many people have you come across?
Years ago, whenever my cousin Corbin, who's been on this podcast, you've seen him. He goes to Columbia a lot. He's 5D Fine Arts. He showed me someone called Bashar channeling. Whenever I first saw Bashar, I mean, you got to think about it. This is over a decade ago. So I was young. This is way more than a decade ago, probably closer to 2 decades ago. So I was a teenager whenever he first showed me this. I might even been younger than that, but let's just say I was a teenager in the early teens. And he showed me this guy, Bashar. Whenever I first saw it, I started laughing because I was like, what is this? And he's telling me, yo, this guy channels an extraterrestrial being. So I'm watching it. I'm like, what is this? And then I would just start listening because I don't really judge people on whatever they look like, whatever they're sounding like. I just judge the information that's coming out of their mouth. So, but whenever you see him at first and you're a kid and you never seen it and you see someone with their eyes closed, channeling, talking and saying it's an alien, you're like, wow, what's going on? But I was listening to the information he was saying, and the information he was saying was so good, it was so accurate that my vibration was rising from listening to it. And I can pretty much tell always from a young age what resonates with me, what is accurate for me in my life, and what isn't. So that's the first experience that I had with channeling, where I saw that and I was like, wow, that's a channeler. Maybe there are others, but that's the first distinct one where I actually saw someone channeling and I was like, whoa, what is this? So ever since then, I was like, oh, that's possible? That's crazy. But you kind of think of it in kind of a far off way, like maybe that guy just has a gift that I'll never attain, kind of thing.
Right. Yeah. I remember the first time for me was probably
me showing you Bashar?
No, that was the second time.
Yeah.
But probably I was like at 18 or 19 or so when I started reading. The first spiritual thing I was getting into was like law of attraction. And I read this like one random book from the library about law of attraction. And it was like this husband and wife. And they were saying that like basically the wife was channeling a being or something, or a group of beings, I can't remember exactly, for the information. I remember telling you about that and you're like, oh no, you can't just read anything. You can't just put this up in your mind.
Well, I don't know. I didn't know what you were reading.
I know. Well, I never.
And I've always been like that, where I'm very careful and selective what I put into my mind, what I put into my brain. I don't just like to listen to anything or see anything or read anything. So that's what I was telling Kelly. I'm like, look, I don't know what that is, but you can't just read anything. Because especially whenever you're in the first stages of your enlightenment period, your first one, then, you know, it can go crazy. You can just go, it can go down the wrong path. It can go left quickly. So you just have to be, you can get into conspiracies. You can start thinking that the world is closing in on you. And that's not the case at all. So continue what you're saying.
Yeah, no, that's definitely true. But I mean, this was my very beginning ages of anything spiritual, really. So I didn't even know that, like, I wouldn't even have called it channeling. It was totally weird, foreign to me. Like, I thought it was a little out there, but I still believed the information. And I'm just like, what being? Like,
looking back on it, do you think that it was good information? Because I still don't even know what you're talking about. I don't remember that.
I mean, honestly, I barely remember the book itself, but the only thing I really remember from it is that it was saying like a certain method you could do where basically every stage of your day, you're thinking about the next stage of the day. So you attract the way you want it to be. So for example, while you're getting ready to leave for work, you're thinking about your drive for work and seeing that it's going to be a nice, smooth ride. Then when you're in the car, you're visualizing once you get to work, it's going to be fun. It's going to be da-da-da-da-da. And it was some type of method they called it, but I barely remember the book. It was so long ago, but I think the information was fine from what I remember. So that was that. And then the next time definitely for me was Bashar too. And for years, I didn't even know that he was channeling an ET being.
Oh, come on, dude.
I swear.
Dude, come on, man.
I swear.
I feel like that would be the first thing I would tell you. But
No,
sometimes I don't even tell you things. I'm just watching it. You know what I mean? I'm just looking at it and you're just looking on my computer like, what is he doing or something? And you just get the information. So maybe it was one of those things.
Like
we didn't live together and whatever.
Like I knew, like I thought it was just the craziest thing I've ever seen. But I would hear what he was saying and I'm just like, wow.
I mean, it looks weird if you've never seen it.
Facts right there. I know he randomly will have like a little accent for one random word and his eyes are shut. Like, I knew he was, like, I guess, channeling in the source, like, information, like, source of some type. But I didn't know it was, like, literally a specific being named Bashar, alien.
So well, the being doesn't have a name, but he essentially said, call me Bashar because he's of, I believe he's of Arabic descent or his ancestors or something. And Bashar means bringer of knowledge, if I am correct. Bringer of knowledge or bringer of light or something of that sort.
So, yeah, really, I just knew about Bashar for a while, heard about Abraham Hicks a bit, watched her stuff a little bit here and there, and then pretty much just the DeLorean Cannon stuff.
Dolores Cannon?
Oh, what did I say?
I thought you said DeLorean, but I think I
said
could
something
be wrong.
Weird. I think I didn't said something
This
weird,
is a live podcast.
Anyway,
so
yeah, so those are pretty much the main.
And let me just say this, guys. We've been working to make these podcasts better. So we're trying to work on our speech as we're going. We're trying to get better for you as we're going. And we've already made a lot of huge improvements, just being able to speak in a long format without having to edit and cut and all that. So if you guys are like thinking about starting channels, you should definitely practice that. And I think it's actually healthy to really help your diction and your speech and just even public speaking and talking to people and getting your confidence up. But go ahead, Kelly.
Yeah. Well, it's a good skill to have. And the more you get on camera, the more videos you make, the more comfortable and better you get at it. And it just so happens, if you watch our last podcast, we talk a little bit about our journey, about law of excitement, law of attraction, and how our journey naturally unfolded, where everything we do with work, even with this, it's all connected without us having planned that out originally.
Without any effort. It's just connected perfectly and flawlessly together.
So we're actually on camera all the time creating videos for our work, but both of those, doing that helps us do better at the podcast. Doing the podcast helps us do better at that. So all connected. Follow your passions.
So yeah, everything that we do is connected, and you guys will start to notice that kind of theme as well. Where, speaking of Bashar, he talks about following your excitement. Now, following your excitement is important because it's going to lead you to the next thing. Now, whenever people say, I'm not excited about anything, you have to start small. Start with something small. Start with what you want for breakfast that day, what you want to wear that day. Then move on. What do I want to do this day? What's a little more exciting than the next thing? It doesn't have to be blow your mind exciting. Just what's a little bit more exciting than the next thing. And then you take that and go from there. So it's an interesting concept, and we take that to heart and we take it serious. And whenever we have that high vibratory energy and we feel aligned with these kind of things, then we're going to actually act on it. And I want you guys to do the same thing whenever you hear us say something and you see us do something. I want you to start acting on that. I want you to start playing it out. I want you to start doing it. You should be following your excitement in everything that you do. And it'll lead you to the next thing. You don't have to know everything. You don't have to be a know-it-all. Oh, I need to know this. I need to know that. No, you absolutely do not need to know it. The only thing you need to do is follow your excitement. So, like Kelly was saying, she started off doing makeup videos. She was going viral. She was helping people feel comfortable in their own skin because Kelly has some moles. She did videos on it. People still comment to this day thanking her. I was self-conscious about my mole. Thank you so much for showing me that it's okay to have it because we're all different. And I was self-conscious about coming on camera. It took me a long time to come on camera and to actually start making videos, start making content. But now it's our everyday life. Now I can even imagine not going on camera because like Kelly said, now we do it for work. Mm-hmm. So Kelly was doing the makeup videos. She won trips to go to different states in the country. She won huge packages were always coming to the doors. I mean, thousands upon thousands of dollars of makeup being sent to her. And she was really living her highest excitement. And it was so exciting for her to get those packages, to do these videos. And then eventually it stopped being exciting. She felt like she took it as far as she could take it. Meanwhile, during that time as well, I was playing video games. I love playing video games. I can't play as much as I used to because I'm working so much now, but I still love playing video games. I started to build computers because that's the next thing. After you start playing the game, then you can start building your own computer, building your own PC. Okay. So I started to do that. I was building my PC. I was loving it. This is so exciting. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. I'm not even thinking about where this is going to go. But next thing you know, you build this powerful PC. You're kind of like, what can I do with it? So we start. Kelly's doing the makeup. I'm doing the PC. Stuff starts colliding. I'm starting to fly drones at this time as well. Next thing you know, we come together and we say, you know what? Why don't we start our own media company? And really when that took off was pre-COVID because I have a company that clears out houses, foreclosed houses. And then during COVID, you couldn't foreclose on houses. You couldn't kick people out their houses. The banks couldn't take their properties back. So guess what? That business was dead. So we're always entrepreneurs, we're always hustlers. We're like, what's the next thing? We sat down, and at that time, Kelly was teaching kids online in China as well. And that was really helping us get by and meet ends. And we're just both just hustling, trying to do whatever we can do to get some extra dollars. And during that time, she started seeing kids and started seeing COVID live because she was teaching kids in China. So
I was one of the probably first people to know about it because, of course, it happened there first. And then sometimes they started asking if we knew what COVID-19 was and stuff. And then when it was just starting to trickle into the U.S., so it was pretty crazy.
Yeah, we're like, what are you talking about? COVID-19. So anyways.
Yeah. So I'm really big. Oh.
No, go ahead.
This is just kind of going back.
Hey, don't ever stop. Cut me off, please. Just keep talking. I don't want to keep saying go ahead and all this. Yeah.
So kind of going back, I'm really big. I had never talked about it here, but I'm really big on women just loving themselves naturally the way they are. There's a lot of pressure these days in our society for women to make pretty drastic permanent changes to themselves in the name of social standards just to fit beauty standards. And the thing is, the beauty standard is always changing, and your true essence is, there's no price on it. There's no trend on it. It's way more powerful than any of these trends going on. And there's so much empowerment from truly loving yourself without making any of these changes. And also not having to show your body, and just there's a lot of empowerment in not needing to do any of that and keeping all these things sacred. So I have been thinking about maybe making some videos about that on this channel, more for geared towards feminine energy, woman energy, how to, in my opinion, truly channel feminine energy in the sacred way that it's meant to. I think we've gotten a little off track with how we're trying to do it these days. Well intended, but a little off track because, well, that's the whole thing, but essentially trying to follow the type of energy that's always been in control by replicating that type of energy, meaning patriarchal energy, and we have a totally different energy. So long story short, if you would like videos on that, just let us know.
So I don't think feminine energy is just absolute do whatever you want, because that is actually what a lot of Satanists say, do what thou wilt. Do whatever you want and not the will of God, essentially. So a lot of women, they think that sleeping with a bunch of men is feminine freedom, and who cares if you have a lot of bodies, just sleep with a bunch of men. I would argue that's male empowerment, because no guy cares if a woman's going to sleep with them. But in the long term, I believe that everyone has sexual energy. So whenever you sleep with a bunch of people, you're taking on some of their energy. So a lot of people, obviously, you allow it. It's not like it just gets attached to you, but a lot of people aren't in control of their spiritual energy. So whenever they sleep with people, they're going to take some of that energy on. So a lot of people, even whenever they just talk to somebody, whenever they just have a conversation, they're going to take some of that person's energy on. So you really have to catch yourself. So the more you're around people, whether it's sexual energy, spiritual energy, just being around that person in the same room, you have to be careful and kind of not guard your energy, but you have to know who you are. Know thyself is so important. So I absolutely do think Kelly should start doing more videos talking about feminine behavior and what females should do. And I'm going to start doing the same thing about masculine behavior and what men should be doing and how to be a true masculine man. Take care and provide for a woman, because people, a lot of times in this day and age, people see it and say, you have to be rich to take care of a woman, to be a man. That's not the case at all. The man's job isn't just making money and working like a dog and working like a horse so that the woman can lay around and do nothing. That's not the case at all. From my perspective, the man's job is to protect the woman. The man's job is to lead the woman. Now, whatever dynamic you want in your house is completely up to you. If you feel like you're a woman and you want to be led by a man, then that's completely fine by you. You can do whatever you want to do. But most women that I talk to, they want a man that's making more money than them. They want a man that's taller than them. They want a man that's stronger than them. They want a man that's better than them, that's smarter than them, that's better than them in every single metric. Therefore, essentially, you're saying you want a man to lead you. You want a man that's going to tell you what to do. So a lot of these women want that. So I truly believe that the best way for a man to be in his masculine form is to take care of a woman and work on themselves and be the spiritual leader as well as the physical leader and the leader in all facets of life. Because if you don't know where you're going and you're not the leader of your family, then guess what, guys? It's going to fall. So we can definitely get into more masculine and feminine dynamics and talk about that more. I think that would be really good because people need to hear that information. But anyways, we were talking about Dolores Cannon and channeling, and I forgot what we were talking about, but
yeah, so we're getting more into the original storyline now. So yes, I always say this prayer, little chant before every healing. The reason being is I wasn't taught to do this in Reiki, at least in my classes, but well, the first time I came across Reiki was actually Han's mother, my mother-in-law. She is a Reiki master, and I'm pretty sure I never even knew what it was until I heard about her doing it. And we were in London together, and I lost my voice. I can barely talk. So I also got a little ill, stuffy nose, cough. And so she did some Reiki on me. And we were also doing some other fun spiritual things at times there because we were there for quite a while, asking the pendulum some questions, just really for fun. And she always would say a similar kind of chant before, because she said whenever you do stuff like this, you always have to make sure you're only calling on, I don't know if she necessarily said beings of light, but something like that. Like you only want to have good beings
Positive
being called
energy.
on. Yeah, exactly. So that always just kind of stuck with me. And she also did a Reiki session on me, which I had never had done before. So
I've never heard this before too. This is interesting because she actually went to London with my mom. I wasn't even there.
Yeah.
So we went to London
all went
before,
together
then
one
she
time.
went one time without me.
Yeah.
With just my mom. So that was pretty cool.
Another business venture.
Yeah.
And we've done many business ventures. One of these days we'll go over all of them.
Yeah. But anyway, so that's the first time you got introduced to Reiki. So I was introduced to all this stuff when I was a kid because, like Kelly was saying, my mom was a Reiki master. She always did Reiki on us when we were kids if we got hurt or whatever. And also, I am a 2nd degree black belt in Hapkido. So I am a martial arts. I wouldn't say I'm not a master, but you could just say I'm a martial arts professional in a way. I don't get paid to do it. But we entered a lot of tournaments. We went to the Arnold Schwarzenegger tournament in Columbus. That's one of the biggest ones in the world. We took home gold medals when we were teenagers. My sisters are black belts. My mom's a black belt as well. So that's where I got introduced to a lot of spirituality, meditation, Tai Chi, because my mom ended up owning the martial arts studio. So I was able to do Hapkido. I was able to do judo. I was able to do mixed martial arts, Tai Chi. I was able to do dancing, gymnastics, stretching, just so many different art forms into one. And that really wasn't a thing back then, which is so awesome because back in those days, if you're in the martial arts community, you understand this. But back in those days, you couldn't just do different practices. Okay, if you're a Hapkido guy, you did Hapkido. That's what you did. If you're a Taekwondo guy, you did Taekwondo, and that's it. If you did judo, you did judo, and that's it. If you did jujitsu, that's all you did. Okay, so because of that, there was a lot of skepticism on going to different practices and people learning different things, and it was really frowned upon, and it was actually dangerous. Like you could get beat up for doing that. Like you could get beat up, disowned from your school, from your dojo, and it was just not a good situation. One of the first people to ever do that was Bruce Lee, which is why Bruce Lee is one of the greatest martial arts of all time, not only because of what he did, but what he did for the sports, because mixed martial arts wasn't a thing before then. That's why in the early days of the UFC, you had people going in there. It was crazy. It was a freak show. It was a pure karate guy versus a Taekwondo guy. And then there'd be a Hapkido guy. But that's why I like Hapkido, because Hapkido was a little bit of everything. There was striking. There was kicking. Like they had the Taekwondo aspect of kicking. You had the boxing aspect of striking. And you had forms. It was just it's a beautiful, incredible art form.
So Taekwondo is kicking, like kind of like
yeah. Now they will do a little striking, some forms, but it's mostly kicking. So if you're doing Taekwondo, you're really kicking. And like that's what you're doing. That's what you're known for.
Like what is karate?
Okay, karate is more kicking, striking.
What is striking?
Just punching.
Oh, okay.
But it's not boxing in the sense, but it's just striking. So from Hapkido in a sense, like if you come from this position, you're gonna strike like this. You're going to strike. Now, you do know how to actually get in a fighting stance, but it's more, you're just more practicing striking for forms in the form of it.
Like the wooden boards and stuff.
Yeah, you're going to do all that. And we did all that. But karate also is not only just kicking and that, but it's also doing, it's you like grab me. Someone grabs you, you grab here. You're going to do this, different wrist locks and different combinations. So a lot of martial arts are similar because we did all that in Hapkido and all that too, but a lot of them just practice more things more than others. So I can't speak on karate to that exact extent because I'm not a karate black belt. I'm a Hapkido black belt and I never practiced karate, but I'm sure there are a lot of I knew some guys that did karate and those are the kind of things that they did. So if you know more about it, feel free to correct me, but that's what I know of karate. So.
Okay. So, any more on that?
Yeah. So, I mean, that's just how I got introduced to spirituality in a sense. So it's just so cool to be able to branch out and do what we're doing now. But whenever Kelly was channeling, to me, it's such an exciting experience because right now it just feels like such a pivotal time in the world and such a pivotal time in general. And you really have to enjoy the journey that you're on and the path you're on. And there's something beautiful whenever you just give it up to God and just let God decide. You know, it doesn't matter what happens. If this is what God wants, then this is what he wants. Mm-hmm. Doesn't matter. And you just do your best to make God proud and just leave it in his hands.
Yeah.
Beautiful things will happen.
Taking a weight off your shoulders, really. But yeah.
And I'm not saying bowing down to an angry God or anything like that. No. But the God that I believe in is everything. I'm a part of that God because we're created by God. We're part of God. There can only be God, which is why I love the concept of Ishvara so much, because you can only be God. In Ishvara, everything is God, which is such a beautiful concept. So whenever you just let everything go and realize that you are everything, which is really cool because who we've been talking to, Neil, hopefully he comes on our podcast soon. We're going to be doing a meeting with him. Thank you, Sky Guardian, for that, man. You're the man. So one of his posts, he was actually talking about abundance and saying that you are everything. So it's not only about, hey, I need this, I want this, you know, I wish for all this. No, you already have it because you already are it. Mm-hmm. So that's another level of abundance when you already are everything. You're already all the money in the world, all the everything in the world. Everything, you already are it. So that's a different level of abundance right there. So it's just such a cool concept. And we just really like to bring all the spiritual stuff to you. But when Kelly was channeling, it was really exciting because that was the first time she was in a full channel where she was able to actually talk to these, or I was able to talk to these beings of light, ask questions, and she would answer questions. And man, it's such a awesome experience because I'm such a big guy on aliens and extraterrestrials. And if you like extraterrestrials and aliens or whatever you like, it's for a reason. So I know I have a connection with these beings. I've seen so many UFOs. I mean, it's just so crazy. It's so exciting to me to be getting these kind of experiences where like, this is what I've wanted. And I'm in the process of writing a book about my experience, about my story and everything. But the thing is, the story just keeps going and going and going. So it's not over yet. So I have a couple books that I'm going to publish, but for now, it's just like, it's still going. It just keeps going. So it's just such a crazy, and it's just fundamentally just, you feel that gratitude, and that has to be a part of your fundamentals to have that gratitude. And Kelly said, gratitude is excitement for the now. Mm-hmm. So whenever you have that excitement for the now, you're going to keep getting more and more excitement. Everything's going to roll and flow together. So even when I'm talking now, I'm channeling. Everything is channeled. Once you get to that point and you start raising your vibration, everything is channeled. I believe that I say what I need to say when I need to say it. I do what I need to do when I need to do it. And it's that simple. So right now, we just watched the Ohio State game versus Michigan. Ohio State lost the game, and, you know, a heartbreaking game. But to me, there's lessons to be learned in everything. Because at the end of the day, it's just a game, okay? Kelly and I went to Ohio State. It's just a game, though. You can't let certain things control and dictate your attitude and your mood and walk around all day like, oh, my team lost my game. Like, you're not even playing in the game. So why would you even give something that much control over you that you have no control of?
Yeah.
Leave it up to God.
People get in way too many feels about these games.
Like, it's awesome to root for a team and hope they do well and this and that and whatever, but you can't let that ruin your day and ruin your life. No matter what it is, you should always be coming from that Buddhist perspective of detachment and allowing everything to come and go as it is, knowing that change is constant. It doesn't matter. So what? They lost. You think that's forever? Okay, everything is changing constantly. It doesn't matter.
Something good will come from it. So back to this chant. it just kind of naturally developed.
I forgot you were talking about it. Like I said, you start talking because sometimes if you don't talk, I'm thinking, oh, she doesn't have anything to say. So I'm just going to blab. I'm a blabber mouth. I could go on and on.
Yeah. And then also that's really my only experience with like any healer. But we did go to one healer a couple sessions. She would do a little chant before as well. So I just kind of liked that it was a nice thing to do. So I kind of just started doing my own little chant. And then it would get longer and longer. First, I would just call upon like God and Jesus, Yeshua, and beings of light. That for some reason, I just always felt like I should say that because it kind of, I know we said before with our experience with Han being in the hospital, we learned so many things with that. And as Han said, he's writing books now, but it's still in the process. So one day we will do a full breakdown of this incredible story, but it's still being written. So we learned that there's so many beings working on this journey. And I just realized that beings of light, of course, all these beings are good, are of light. So that kind of encompasses all of them because I don't know what dimension, what kind of aliens, whatever they are, what planet they're from. There's many different kinds. I just knew that. So I knew this would encompass all of them. But as the healings went on, so many more things would come out because, first of all, I never intended to be a Reiki healer. Han basically just got a message and said that I am one shortly before he went to the hospital.
I know what I need to know when I need to know it. So I walked up to Kelly and I said, you are a healer. It wasn't like I got a message, nothing. I just know what I need to know when I need to know it. And that's something that Bashar says at the highest level, these beings, they just know what they need to know when they need to know it. So I just stood up, looked at her. I said, you're a healer, heal me.
And you put your hands on me.
Yeah. She's like, I don't know what to do. I don't know. I said, just put your hands on me. You'll figure it out.
And he said they got hot. And it was interesting because at that time I was reading I think it's called They Walked with Jesus, one of the Dolores Cannon books, where a couple people had lives interacting with Jesus. One was actually his niece, but there was some interactions.
I think I got you those books, didn't I?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. So it was literally like the next day or something. I read in the book. It was from his niece channeling. And she was saying, he was teaching her because she wanted to, follow him and be with him, even though it wasn't really meant to be her path as a woman, just a 12-year-old girl. She was meant to go off and marry someone. But her parents did let her because Jesus was her father's brother. So she had to pretend to be a boy. But anyway, he was teaching her about the healing. And he said, just, always make sure you're thinking with your heart, you're pure of your heart. And he took her hand, he said, right here in the centers of our palms, we have heart chakras. And this is how we let out, the healing just by putting our hands on people. But we have to make sure our heart is pure. And then they went to the leper village and they had no fear. He said, make sure you never have fear. Let that all go. Because people were so afraid of these lepers. It was supposed to be so contagious. That's why they stayed in their own villages and people would not go around them. But Jesus and the followers, they said, no, we're going to go in there. We're going to help these people. And he would just put their hands on these people. And some would help permanently. Some would help just while he was touching, just get a little bit of relief from the pain. Some wouldn't get much of all. And he explained to the niece, basically, he's just said that in totally different words, but basically our souls signed up for certain things. And some people signed up to kind of suffer this way for one way or the other. And even I can't go above that, essentially the karma that they signed up for. So they're going to, it's not really going to necessarily help them as much as some others, but we're still going to do it anyway.
Because sometimes you come into life to learn certain lessons. So no matter what, you have to learn those lessons. So certain things happened with me where I knew it was probably going to happen regardless. Where, even doctors were like, I don't know how this happened. It's like, I know how it happened. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. That's between me and God. I got to do something. Don't worry about it.
Yep. So when Han got this download about me being a healer, he's like, just get a Reiki book, start reading it. I'm like, okay. So I read that, and then I started reading this Reiki book, and she started explaining basically the same thing. And she was even talking about the Essenes who Jesus Yeshua trained from and would have learned all this information from. So it was just all connecting, all being synchronistic, of course, as we know these things go. So I started doing a lot of sessions, mostly on Han, of course. And the crazy thing is, I would not have so many sessions under my belt if this occurrence didn't happen to Han to the point where we felt it basically necessary to do many, many healings. So, of course, all connected, all synchronistic. But as I would do these healings, all of a sudden, just messages and these downloads started coming out. Something I never imagined for myself, something I never would have thought would happen, something that's not even necessarily part of Reiki. I remember when I read the book, she said that sometimes it would happen for her. But when you do your teachings in your classes, it's not something that is like just, you're a Reiki teacher, this is unlocked in you now. It's not taught. So really surprising things. And then all of a sudden, some of his ancestors started coming through. Some of his past lives started coming through. And I could see them clearly. And
I have a whole log. One day we're going to write a book of just that too. We have so many books that we're going to write, guys. This is exciting stuff. I mean, I love this. I love talking about it. I'm so excited about it. And just this goes into what we were saying about masculine and feminine as well, because that's why I was saying how being a man isn't just about making money. I led her down this path because I took care of myself, and my spiritual enlightenment was already going through it. I'm always going through spiritual enlightenment. I'm always growing. I'm always getting better. I always keep a high frequency, but I was able to guide her through that process. And then now she's able to guide me through different processes. So that's when that masculine and feminine energy comes together and is a beautiful process, because look at that. I was able to guide her. I was able to tell her, this is what you are. So do this. And she listened to me because she believes in me and she trusts me. If she didn't believe in me, if she didn't trust me, if she had an attitude, oh, I'm not doing that, I'm whatever, then guess what? None of this would have ever happened. But look where we are now. Look how beautiful this situation is. Now we're able to talk to you about it. Now we're able to go through this with all of you because of such a beautiful occurrence.
Definitely. So
you start writing everything down. Yeah, even
saints. So eventually I was like, all these different things are coming through. I'm just going to start adding them all into the chant because I never know who's going to come through to help with the healing. So let me just say this. Kelly's able, through her healing, she gets these messages.
So over time, and if you guys ever want to book a Reiki session with Kelly, you absolutely can, because there's distance Reiki healing as well. But she gets these messages. So the thing about her, once she's getting these messages over time, she's able to build up and understand who your guide is. She's able to see, okay, this is one of your guides. We have multiple guides. So she was able to say, okay, Jesus is one of your guides, Yeshua. Okay, one of your guides is a saint. So you're the saints. I call them the saints. Saint Nicholas. So she's able to say, okay, this is another one of your guides. This is another. And over time, it's like she knows who all these people are. So she's going to have different chants and different prayers for different people.
Yes, and I've always felt from the beginning that it's not me producing the healing. I always felt like I was the channel from the start, and that is what you're taught in Reiki, but I just always felt like that anyway, that it's just essentially just passing through me and coming out. And it's especially with all of these other beings, I always knew that it was really coming from them. And maybe if I don't hear a particular being, of course, it's just coming from God or just higher source. But it's just essentially coming down through me to them, because I'm always, and everything I hear, it's never, I know it's not from my own mind. It's always from somewhere else. So eventually we had one session where it was definitely very clear that some type of extraterrestrial being was present and assisting with the healing. And I even had different methods that I was shown to do, which were typically with Reiki, you do a flat palm healing, but I was meant to do with just the fingertips on certain chakra points, and specifically touching the root chakra while touching the crown and also the third eye as well. and just point, kind of more like acupressure points, that type. So, and it was just really, really clear. Like I could pretty much like see another being on the other, at the head, and when I was at the feet. And you could just really, really feel that they were there. And then I know something synchronistic happened on your end where we didn't even talk about it, but you had felt like there was a being as well.
Oh, all the time. I can sense when there's beings from other dimensions, when there's different spirits, different saints, and different people. I can feel them. I can feel their presence. And there's nothing to be scared about because number one, what you're the vibration of, you attract, okay? And you always have your guides with you. So don't ever feel like, oh, I'm scared, okay? Whenever you're going through something like this, that's why I have these ET meditations, these guided meditations to attract these extraterrestrial beings, because you can never be afraid of it, okay? You're going to be whatever vibration you're on, you're going to attract. So that's why if you're in a positive state, you're in a positive mood, you're in a loving state, you connect with them through the love and the oneness of yourself. So once you connect with that, you're only going to be able to connect with beings that feel that love and that oneness. So a lot of times I would even call out before the meditation. I'll just instinctively know I'm going to call on these ETs. I'm going to call on these certain beings of light. Next thing you know, Kelly's telling me these are the messages I got. She's reading it off like a list. And in my head, I was already thinking, oh, yep, I saw that one. I felt that one. I felt that one. I already knew that one. And so a lot of times there's something that hurts within me. I don't even tell her. Next thing you know, I feel her start rubbing on my shoulder a little bit, feeling, doing Reiki here, there. And I'm like, that's crazy that you even knew that, because a lot of times I don't even say anything to her, just to test her in my mind, just to see. And she always, it's just crazy. It's absolutely nuts. So
yeah. So I think for that one session, I think I did a little bit of speaking. And then the past month or two, when I do this beginning chant, like I kind of just start freestyling more, and it kind of turns into more like a prayer, just talking a little bit more. And I'm just kind of getting that deep down urge that I should try to start speaking out more during the sessions. So during this last session, I was just really, really feeling I could kind of... And my messages, they come in all different ways. It'll come visually. I will see things at times. And when you hear things, it's hard to explain. But I guess you can kind of say like how you hear your voice in your head. You don't actually hear it, but you hear it, if that makes sense. But when I just know it's someone different. It's not like the voice is actually different. Like when you talk to someone, oh, this is his voice, this is her voice. It's not like that. It's just like a knowing. And some things come through like that too, where it's just a knowing. So all different ways. But I was just getting this knowing that there was this being here. And I was like, okay, I need
last time.
Yeah.
Like this is very recent too, guys. This is
just earlier this week.
Like if you're watching this podcast, I'm telling you, Han Meditations is going to be huge. It's going to be huge. And if you're listening now, you're watching now, you're like, dude, I can't believe I was there. And now look at us. Me and Sky Guardian are going to be together, having the biggest company of all time together, because he was one of the first people to actually reach out to us and talk to us. We're going to be doing this together. It's going to be awesome. So guys, reach out to us. We love we love whenever you guys contact us and talk to us. But we're so excited and passionate about this. We can't wait to learn more. But go on, Kelly.
Yeah. So I was just kind of feeling like, okay, I need to just kind of relax, not let my physical mind get in the way. And I just I know I need to speak right now. I wasn't necessarily knowing I was about to channel, but I knew I just had to speak. So I just started speaking, and it really just started coming out. And as soon as I started letting it come out, it was just flowing out. And it was just a really cool experience. It felt like, number one, it felt like time was not real. And I think that was something I needed too, because recently, we get into these little modes sometimes where our physical mind kind of tricks us. And lately, something for me is I just been feeling like, oh, I don't have time. I don't have time. So I think there's just a lot of little layers of that experience, a lot more lessons than we even realize. But I think that is just one of the layers of the lessons. And for me to feel totally unattached from time, doesn't matter. It's not real. I really had no sense of time. And it's funny because we recorded it and sometimes Han would ask the question and I knew there was a little pause. But when I went back to the recording, I'm like, wow, I didn't even realize how long that pause was until the answer actually came out. It didn't seem that long. So that was one thing. And it was like, I was still physically there in a sense. Now I know like I could just pick up on a lot of things. Like I know Han went to grab his phone and to start recording. I could just tell like through sixth sense or whatever that he was trying to not get me out of it. But I was fine. I was good to go. And it was like I was still hearing these things in the present. Like I was still there, but it wouldn't distract me. And then since I was standing for quite a while, I could feel like my hip getting a little tight. And I would just kind of like move my weight a little bit. And that was fine too. And it would just go away. Mostly it was in the background, but like just a couple times I would actually physically feel the sensation. But for the most part, it was just in the background, but I was still there. It's quite hard to explain. But it was really awesome. And we learned a lot of things from these beings. And I think maybe, I know we're going to be doing more with them. More work with them. They said they'll come back. Not necessarily every time I try to call them they will, maybe eventually, but they will be back. And I think they're going to continue teaching us a lot more. And I think that would have to be a episode in and of itself.
Oh, that's going to be a whole book, man. There's going to be some Dolores Cannon stuff going on.
Something I realized.
Guys, this is so special. This is so special. And all of you guys have this gift within you. Go on, Kelly.
Yes. And something I realized when I was thinking about it later, I'm like, beings of light, being of light. And it's just kind of like, okay, obviously it's like being, like a ET being. But then I was kind of thinking of this way, like being of light, like you are being of the light, like you are being light.
Wow.
So that's something that came to me, I think just yesterday, thinking
Kelly,
about it.
Kelly, that's crazy. That is crazy. I mean, that I'm not even joking because I never even thought of it in that way.
Yeah, it just kind of popped in my head.
I always think of things in that way. Like, you know, I'm always thinking about different things. Like, you know, like you're infinite being, you're infinite, infinite reality and all this crazy stuff. So saying you're being of light, you're actually being of the light. Like you're being of the light. Yeah, because I've also been thinking that, you know, when I start Reiki more as like a business, like I always been thinking like what should be the business name. And I've also kind of thought like maybe I need like a more spiritual name, like not just Kelly. So I was thinking maybe it's meant to be something like about with being of light or something. I don't know. Yeah. We'll see. Yeah. If you guys know any spiritual names, let's it's got to be authentic. So yeah, got to be the right fit. So that was really cool. And just a small information about these beings. They are definitely ET beings. And they are a group. Not from this dimension, I don't believe. Well, definitely not from this dimension. But they said that you can kind of think of them as nurse units. So there's a head nurse. And I definitely got the sense that she was mostly the one coming through and speaking. And Han actually asked about that too. But like there's also kind of like, I'm not sure how many, but a unit of other nurses as well. But there was definitely a head nurse that like knows the most and can do the most and the most far along with their journey. And they're basically said that they come and they do healing practices. Whoa. Don't mind that synchronicity. Just keep going. They do healing practices when... It's 444 if you're just listening to it. So some humans on Earth are in need in ways that, you know, our physical Earth world cannot perform that kind of healing. It's a match of the spiritual realm and the physical realm, and it has to connect in a way that we aren't there yet in this 3D. 3D, right? Yep. So... just a little information about them, and they do come down and they assist and they help with healing with us, and that is essentially their job. They do healings, and they've advanced their civilization so much that their civilization is not in need of healing because they
they've done this so much and they've channeled this light so much that they don't have hurt, they don't have pain, they don't have broken bones, they don't have a need for healing. But for some reason, we didn't tap fully into it, but there is some type of connection here where they feel the need to help us a lot on Earth.
Yeah.
So
Karmic,
that's just a little
almost
information.
a karmic need.
Yeah, some type of...
Like the Greys who
yes,
they feel like they need to help a lot with Earth now because
exactly,
you know, they've done different things with Earth.
And I definitely felt that they're connected to the Greys because I'm not sure if any of you are familiar. I know it's talked a lot about in the Dolores Cannon books about a lot of times when people get abducted, there's the Greys that kind of get them up there. But then almost always they always describe it as like this nurse, motherly being who's just by their side, don't really talk, but they just feel really comfortable with them. And it's just like a nurturing being. And I'm like 99% sure that those are the same beings.
Yeah. And another thing that I want to get into eventually, we don't have to get into it fully on this podcast, but this is actually a good topic, is just really helping people adjust to their enlightenment journey. And you have to realize that every single time you're going up a level, there's going to be something that comes and you got to get through it, because whenever you're really trying to get to the next level, sometimes you'll just glide past. This isn't every time. Sometimes you'll just glide past. Everything is fine. But a lot of times, everything that you're going through that you need to get through is going to get pushed to the surface. So if you have anxieties or fears about certain things, it's going to get pushed to the surface. And it's doing that for a reason. It's getting pushed to the surface so that you can work through it, so that you can identify the problem, work through it, and then fix it, and then go on your journey. So it happens a lot. It happens a lot with us. It happens a lot with everybody. We're not perfect beings, but we have a strive for perfection. We have a strive to do the right thing at all times. So it's just a cool process and an interesting process. And you just really have to check your ego. You have to check your attitude. You always have to be in the vibration that you want to be, and be the person you want to be before you are the person you want to be. Because when you are the person you want to be before you are the person you want to be, then you are the person you want to be. Hopefully that made sense to you. We'll see you in the next one, guys. Thank you so much for being here. Han Meditations.
Thank you.
Hey guys, Han Meditations here, and I'm so excited to bring you guys a new meditation album.
Entranced to Serenity, streaming now on all platforms. See you there.